2-year-old qualifiers at the Meadows for Thursday, June 7th. Fast track 68 degrees. First race for Pacers number 1. Up front Hoosier Lady by Hoosier Boy, trained and driven by Dean Collins. Number 2 Real Mozartist by Real Desire, trained by Ron Burke, driven by Dave Pallone. Number 3 She's a Skip Along by Village Jolt, trained by John Kreiser, the driver Corey Kreiser. Number 4 Candy for the Lady by McArdle, trained by Dan Walski, the driver Brian Zent. Number 5 Exhibitionist by Jet Pace, trained by Jeannie Rastetter, the driver Ron Harvey. Number 6 Binding Desire by Real Desire, trained by Bruce Regal, the driver Brett Miller. Second qualifying race, this one for trotters. Number 1 Luminosity by Cash Hall, trained and driven by Steve Schoeffel. Number 2 Berlin Hall by Broadway Hall, trained and driven by Marty Wollum. Number 3 RT Left Hook by Ebanks, trained and driven by Bobby Rouget. Number 4 Classic Upset by Classic Photo, trained and driven by Rick Beinhauer. Number 5 Duffler by Garth Vader, trained by Charlene Duffer, the driver Bruce Dufford. Number 6 Hampton Beach by SJ's Caviar, trained and driven by Todd Rooney. Number 7 Tigress's Legacy by SJ's Caviar, trained and driven by David Wade. And number 8 Montour County by Sierra Cosmos, trained by John McMullen, the driver Will Yoder. Third 2-year-old qualifier, this one for Pacers. Once again, fast track, temperature 68. Number 1, Bit of Sweetness by Real Desire, trained by Ron Burke, the driver Dave Pallone. Number 2, Petunia's Dragon by Dragon again, trained by Dan Altmeyer, the driver Mike Wilder. Number 3, Vahina by Western Terror, trained by Chris Olivic, the driver Eddie McKnight. Number 4, Royal Native by All American Native, trained by Joe Torok, the driver Will Yoder. Number 5, Caviar Ginger by Real Desire, trained by Jason Bresnahan, the driver Brady Brown. Number 6, Powerful Pulse by Quick Pulse Mindale, trained by Ted Williams, the driver Aaron Johnston. Fourth qualifier, this one for trotters, number 1, Paragon Winner by Credit Winner, trained and driven by Steve Schoeffel. Number 2, New Fontaine by Broadway Hall, trained and driven by Marty Wollum. Number 3, Spiro DeVee by SJ's Caviar, trained and driven by Rick Beinhauer. Number 4, BS Maximum Moon Dream by Bedford County, trained and driven by David Brickle. Number 5, Barron's Mighty Might by Anastasia Barron, trained by Ashley Brown, the driver Brady Brown. Number 6, Ruddy Rusty by SJ's Caviar, trained by Boots Dunn, the driver Brian Zent. Number 7, Holy Warrior by Ethan Seelster, trained by Charlie Flickinger, the driver Mike Wilder. Fifth qualifying race, this one for Pacers. Once again, track fast, temperature 68 degrees. Number 1, Whetstone Hanover by Some Beach Somewhere, trained by Dan Altmeyer, the driver Mike Wilder. Number 2, Be Quite Marvelous by Quick Pulse Mindale, trained by Dane Snyder, the driver Doug Snyder. Number 3, Blue Beyond by Village Jolt, trained by Steve Schoeffel, the driver Steve Schoeffel. Number 4, Cantankerous by Some Beach Somewhere, trained by Bruce Regal, the driver Brett Miller. Number 5, Ism Hanover by Yankee Cruiser, trained by Jack Smith, driver Brian Zent. And number 6, Prima Dragon by Dragon Again, trained and driven by Marty Wollum. Sixth 2-year-old qualifier, this one for trotters. Number 1, Liuba by RT Giant, trained and driven by Bobby Rouget. Number 2, Mango Salone by Broadway Hall, trained and driven by Steve Schoeffel. Number 3, Chip to My Lou by Chip Chip Hooray, trained and driven by Rick Beinhauer. Number 4, Nico Ridge by Tom Ridge, trained and driven by Marty Wollum. Number 5, Money and Me by Donato Hanover, trained by Bruce Regal, the driver Brett Miller. Number 6, Cambria County by Glidemaster, trained by John McMullen, the driver Will Yoder. Pacers in qualifying race number 7, the 1, Ms. Flower Girl by Yankee Cruiser, trained by Dane Snyder, the driver Doug Snyder. Number 2, Jesse's Diamond by Yankee Cruiser, trained by Dan Altmeyer, the driver Mike Wilder. Number 3, Hoosier China by Canyon Wind, trained by Ron Burke, the driver Dave Pallone. Number 4, Adventure Pan by Mach 3, trained by Ron Burke, the driver Brett Miller. Number 5, Shakira Babe by Metropolitan, trained by John Kreiser, the driver Corey Kreiser. Number 6, Sweet Talia by Real Desire, trained and driven by Steve Schoeffel. And number 7, DVC Jaded Attitude by Magical Mike, trained and driven by David Brickle. Qualifying race number 8, this one for trotters. Number 1, Ruffles Have Ridges by Tom Ridge, trained and driven by Rick Beinhauer. Number 2, Olivet de Vie by Cantab Hall, trained and driven by Steve Schoeffel. Number 3, RT Let Her Rip by RT Giant, trained and driven by Bobby Rouget. Number 4, Lady Broadway by Broadway Hall, trained by John McMullen, the driver Will Yoder. Number 5, G Mama by SJ's Caviar, trained by Marty Wollum, the driver Al Mankey. And number 6, Ladyfinger by Andover Hall, trained and driven by Marty Wollum. Qualifying race number 9, this one for Pacers. Number 1, RT Red Your Rights by All-American Native, trained and driven by Bobby Rouget. Number 2, Thunder Chaser by Rattler Hanover, trained by Charlie Flickinger, the driver Will Yoder. Number 3, All About Me Hanover by Some Beach Somewhere, trained by Ron Burke, the driver Dave Pallone. Number 4, McAlvin by McArdle, trained by Bob Kernitsky Jr., the driver Brian Zent. The 5 was scratched. Number 6, Nuclear Brown by Nuclear Breeze, trained by Jason Shaw, the driver Chris Shaw. Number 7, McLiberty by McArdle, trained by Dan Altmeyer, the driver Mike Wilder. Number 8, Skylights Finale by All-American Native, trained and driven by Steve Schoeffel. Qualifying race number 10, this one for trotters. Once again, fast track, temperature 68 degrees. Number 1, Andover Fist by Andover Hall, trained and driven by Marty Wollum. Number 2, Fast Frederica by Andover Hall, trained by Steve Bush driving. Number 3, Find the Magic by Chocolatier, trained by Dane Snyder, the driver Doug Snyder. Number 4, Jailhouse Rain by Jailhouse Jesse, trained by Ron Burke, the driver Dave Pallone. Number 5, Pretty Sydney Ridge by Tom Ridge, trained by Tim Twaddle, the driver Mike Wilder. Number 6, Classy Lady by Classic Photo, trained by Charlene Dufford, the driver Bruce Dufford. Qualifying race number 11, this one for Pacers, number 1, LeBron Hall by Some Beach Somewhere, trained by Ron Burke, the driver Brett Miller. 2 was Scratch, number 3, Tempster Hanover by Some Beach Somewhere, trained by Dan Altmeyer, the driver Mike Wilder. Number 4, Jungle of Terror by Western Terror, trained and driven by Steve Schoeffel. Number 5, Chef Bo's Magic by Nuclear Breeze, trained by Jason Shaw, the driver Chris Shaw. Number 6, Jesuitical Hanover by Dragon Again, trained by Ron Burke, the driver Dave Pallone. And number 7, Upfront Dean by Dragon Again, trained and driven by Dean Collins. Twelfth qualifying race, final one of the day for 2-year-olds. Number 1, Eddie Sweat by All-American Native, trained by Tim Twaddle, the driver Tony Hall. Number 2, RR's Squattin' Image by Luck of the Gold, trained by Charlie Flickinger, the driver Brian Zent. Number 3, Panpero Firpo by No Pan Intended, trained by Ron Burke, the driver Mike Wilder. Number 4, Pananga Hala by No Pan Intended, trained by Ron Burke, the driver Ken Weimer. Number 5, Coffee Vendor by Western Terror, trained by Jim Brewer, the driver Will Yoder. Number 6, Rio Tinto by 4 Stars Shark, trained by John Kreiser, the driver Corey Kreiser. Number 7, Lomont Party by Arts Card Trick, trained by Ted Williams, the driver Aaron Johnston. Number 8, Mario Hall by Dragon Again, trained by Ron Burke, the driver Dave Pallone.